My name is Dorothy Mitchell. I'm 68 years old, and I'm about to tell you the story of how my own son tried to erase me from existence. It started on April 18th, 2023, the day I came home to find my husband dead on our living room couch. But let me back up 6 weeks. That's when my son Brian showed up at my door with his wife Vanessa and 2 men I'd never seen before. One was wearing a white coat. The other carried a clipboard and wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom," Brian said, his voice tight and rehearsed, "we need to talk about your health." I was making coffee. Robert was upstairs sleeping. He'd been so tired lately, the cancer treatments draining him dry. I'd taken a leave from my nursing shifts at Providence to care for him full-time. 42 years I'd worked at that hospital. 42 years of double shifts and Christmas Eves away from home so other people could celebrate with their families. "My health is fine," I said, pouring water into the coffee maker. My hands were steady. "Robert's the one who needs help right now." Vanessa stepped forward. She was wearing a cream-colored pantsuit that probably cost more than our monthly grocery bill. "Dorothy, that's exactly what we're worried about. You're exhausted. You're not eating properly. Brian says you've lost 15 pounds. I had lost weight. Caring for a dying husband will do that to you." "This is Dr. Lehman," Brian said, gesturing to the man in the white coat. "He's a psychiatrist. We think you're suffering from caregiver burnout and depression, maybe even early dementia." The word hung in the air like smoke. "Dementia," I repeated slowly. "You think I have dementia? Mom, you forgot my birthday last month." "Your birthday is August 24th. It's currently March 14th. I didn't forget your birthday. It hasn't happened yet." Dr. Lehman stepped forward with a gentle smile that made my skin crawl. "Mrs. Mitchell, I understand this is difficult, but your family is concerned. I'd like to do a simple evaluation. Just a few questions. Get out of my house." The man with the clipboard finally spoke. His voice was flat, bureaucratic. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm George Hendricks from Greenwood Care Facility. Your son has expressed serious concerns about your ability to care for yourself and your husband. We have a bed available." I said, "Get out." "Mom, please." Brian's voice cracked. For a moment, he sounded like the little boy who used to crawl into bed with us during thunderstorms. "We're trying to help you." "Help me?" I set the coffee pot down hard enough that water sloshed onto the counter. "I've been a registered nurse for 42 years. I've cared for hundreds of patients. I think I know when I need help." Vanessa exchanged a look with Dr. Lehman. It was quick, practiced. They'd planned this. "Mrs. Mitchell," Dr. Lehman said, pulling a document from his briefcase, "I've reviewed your case based on information provided by your family. In my professional opinion, you're exhibiting signs of significant cognitive decline and caregiver stress that could be dangerous to both you and your husband. You've never met me before today. Nevertheless, the documentation is concerning." He held up the paper. I could see Brian's signature at the bottom. "I'm recommending immediate evaluation and respite care." That's when I understood. This wasn't about my health. This was about control. "How much is Greenwood paying you for referrals?" I asked Dr. Lehman directly. His smile never wavered. "Mrs. Mitchell, I understand you're upset. Answer the question." "Mom, stop it." Brian's face was red now. "You're being paranoid. This is exactly what we're talking about." I looked at my son, really looked at him. He was wearing a new watch. Expensive. Tag Heuer, maybe. Robert and I had given him $35,000 back in 2010 to help him start his sales career, buy a decent car, rent a nice apartment. He'd never paid us back. Never even mentioned it again. "Where's Robert?" I asked quietly. "He's upstairs sleeping," Brian said. "We checked on him. He's fine." "You went into my husband's bedroom without asking me?" "He's my father. And this is my house." The man from Greenwood stepped forward again. "Mrs. Mitchell, we can do this the easy way, or what? You'll have me committed? On what grounds? A 10-minute conversation where I refuse to cooperate with a doctor I never agreed to see?" Vanessa's voice was sugar-sweet poison. "Dorothy, you're getting agitated. This is exactly the kind of behavior that concerns us." I wanted to laugh or scream. They'd built the perfect trap. Cooperate and admit I needed help I didn't need. resist and prove I was unstable. I want you all to leave, I said. Now. Mom, Brian, if you don't leave my house right now, I'm calling the police. They left, but Vanessa turned at the door, her face finally showing something real. Contempt. We're trying to save you from yourself, Dorothy. I hope you remember that. 3 days later, Brian came back. This time with police and court papers. Dr. Lehman had signed an emergency psychiatric hold based on credible reports of self-neglect and risk of harm. The officer, a young woman who looked uncomfortable with the whole thing, explained that I could either come voluntarily or they'd take me by force. Robert was in the hospital that day for a transfusion. I was supposed to pick him up at 3 o'clock. I have to get my husband, I told the officer. Ma'am, the facility will help coordinate his care. You don't understand. He has cancer. He needs me. Brian's voice was gentle, horrifying. Mom, we'll take care of Dad, I promise. That was the last time I saw my husband alive. Greenwood Care Facility was exactly what you'd imagine. Linoleum floors the color of institutional depression. The smell of disinfectant fighting a losing battle against urine. My room was barely bigger than a closet. The bed had thin sheets that felt like sandpaper. The window had bars. Not decorative bars. Actual bars. This is temporary, the intake nurse told me. She had kind eyes but tired hands. Just until we complete your evaluation. How long does an evaluation take? Usually 72 hours, sometimes longer if the doctor has concerns. The door didn't lock from the inside. I tried calling Robert that first night. They told me he was resting and couldn't come to the phone. I tried calling Brian, straight to voicemail. I tried calling my friend Lisa Chen, the only person from the hospital I'd kept in touch with after taking leave. No answer. Later, I'd find out Vanessa had called Lisa, told her I was having a breakdown and needed space. The days blurred together. They woke me at 6 for vitals. Breakfast was lukewarm oatmeal. Dr. Lehman came by every other day with his clipboard and his gentle questions that were really accusations. Do you know what day it is, Dorothy? Thursday, March 23rd, 2023. And where are you? In a facility I was brought to against my will. Do you remember why you're here? Because my son wants to steal my house. He'd write something down. His pen made scratching sounds that reminded me of rats in walls. The other residents scared me. Not because they were dangerous, but because I saw my future in their empty eyes. One woman, maybe 75, spent all day asking for her daughter. The daughter never came. How long has she been here? I asked a nurse one day. Mrs. Patterson? 6 years. 6 years? Her son pays the bills on time. That's all that matters to administration. I'd been at Greenwood for 4 weeks when I finally got through to Lisa. She answered on the 8th ring, and when she heard my voice, she started crying. Dorothy, my God, I thought, Brian said you were, Lisa, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I told her everything. The ambush, Dr. Lehman, the facility. Lisa worked quickly. She knew people. 2 weeks later, her lawyer friend filed for a judicial review of my psychiatric hold. On April 18th, a judge ordered my immediate release. 6 weeks after they'd taken me from my home, the Uber driver who picked me up from Greenwood didn't ask questions. He'd probably seen it before. Old people shuffling out of places that smelled like giving up. It was 3:30 in the afternoon when I got to 2847 SE Hawthorne Belvidere. Our house. The one Robert and I bought in 1985 for $89,000. Worth maybe $485,000 now, according to Zillow. The grass needed mowing. Robert's car was in the driveway, dusty. The porch light was on even though it was daytime. I used my key. The door stuck a little. It always did. Robert? The smell hit me first. Something sweet and wrong. The living room was dark, curtains drawn. I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen, water dripping from a faucet. Robert, honey, I'm home. He was on the couch. Our brown leather couch from the furniture outlet on 82nd Avenue, the one we'd saved up 6 months to buy. He was wearing his blue pajamas. His hands were folded on his chest. He looked like he was sleeping, but he wasn't sleeping. I don't remember crossing the room. Don't remember falling to my knees. I remember putting my hand on his forehead. Cold. So cold. On the coffee table, arranged in a neat row, were 7 orange prescription bottles. All full. None of them opened. Pain medications. Anti-nausea pills. Antibiotics for the infection that had started in his lungs. Nobody had given him his medicine. My phone was in my hand. I didn't remember taking it out. Brian's number was right there. I pressed it. It rang 4 times. Then voicemail. "Hey, this is Brian. Can't get to the phone right now. Leave a message and I'll call you back. Actually, scratch that. I'm on vacation. Be back April 19th. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I opened Instagram. Found Brian's account. The most recent post was from yesterday. A photo of Brian and Vanessa at the Trevi Fountain in Rome. Vanessa's smile was brilliant white. Brian was wearing sunglasses and a linen shirt I'd never seen before. The caption read, "Finally, a vacation without the old folks. Living our best life. Rome in spring." The post had 247 likes. I sat there on the floor next to my dead husband, staring at that photograph, for what might have been 5 minutes or 5 hours. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 23 years. Lisa answered on the first ring. "Dorothy, did you get home okay? How's Robert?" My voice sounded far away, like someone else was using my throat. "Lisa, I need you to give me the number for that lawyer friend of yours, the one who got me out." "Of course, but..." "And I need you to find out who handles elder abuse cases in Multnomah County." Silence. Then quietly, "Dorothy, what happened?" I looked at Robert's face. Peaceful. He'd always looked peaceful when he slept. For 45 years, I'd woken up next to that face. "My husband is dead," I said. "My son killed him, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it." "I'll be there in 15 minutes, Lisa said. "Don't touch anything." "And Dorothy?" "Yeah?" "Don't call the police yet. Not until my lawyer friend gets there. You need to be very careful about what happens next." After I hung up, I noticed something else on the coffee table. Tucked under one of the prescription bottles was a piece of paper. A business card, actually. Westside Realty Group, Vanessa Mitchell. Interior design consultant specializing in estate sales and property staging. Someone had written on the back in Vanessa's looping handwriting. Estimated value, $485K, split 50-50 after expenses, V. I picked up my phone again, dialed another number. This time I didn't wait for an answer. "I need everything," I said when the voicemail beep sounded. "Bank records, medical files, every email, every text message. I need to know exactly when my husband died. I need to know who knew, and I need all of it ready for court." I hung up and sat back down on the floor next to Robert. Outside I could hear a dog barking, a car passing, someone's lawn sprinkler clicking in circles, normal sounds for people living normal lives. My phone buzzed, a text from Lisa. "On my way, hang in there." I looked at Robert one more time, reached out and took his cold hand in mine. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here. But I promise you, baby. I promise they're going to pay for this." The dog kept barking, the sprinkler kept clicking, and I sat there on our living room floor, holding my dead husband's hand, and waited for the lawyer to arrive. Lisa arrived in 12 minutes. She must have broken every speed limit between Northeast Fremont and our house. She came through the front door like a small hurricane, all 5'2" of her, 70 years old, and moving faster than most people half her age. She stopped when she saw Robert on the couch. "Oh, Dorothy." I was still sitting on the floor. My legs had gone numb, but I hadn't moved. Couldn't move, really. If I moved, this would all be real. Lisa knelt down beside me, put her arm around my shoulders. She smelled like jasmine tea and the vanilla lotion she always wore. Normal smells. Good smells. "When did you find him?" she asked quietly. "Maybe 45 minutes ago. I called you right away." "You didn't call 911? "Not yet." She understood immediately. Lisa had been a nurse even longer than me. She knew what happens when you call 911 and you're a recently released psychiatric patient who comes home to find a dead body. She knew how that story gets told. Elderly woman, history of mental instability, discovers deceased husband. Did she harm him? Did she neglect him? Should she be taken back into custody for her own safety? My lawyer friend is 10 minutes out, Lisa said. His name is Marcus Weber, criminal defense, but he knows elder law too. He's good, Dorothy, really good. I can't afford... He owes me a favor, big one. Don't worry about money right now. I finally looked away from Robert, looked at Lisa instead. She had tears running down her face, but her expression was pure steel. They killed him, Lisa. They put me away and they let him die alone. I know, honey. I know. And we're going to prove it. Marcus Weber looked like he'd been a linebacker once. Big shoulders, gray beard, eyes that didn't miss anything. He came in, took one look at the scene, and immediately pulled out his phone. I'm calling the medical examiner, he said. Not 911. ME's office directly. That way we control the narrative from the start. While he made the call, Lisa helped me up off the floor. My knees cracked. Everything hurt. When's the last time you ate? Lisa asked. I don't know. This morning, maybe. The food at Greenwood was... I couldn't finish. Suddenly I was crying. Huge, gasping sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest. 45 years. 45 years of marriage, and I wasn't there when he died. I was locked in a room that smelled like piss and despair while my husband called for me. While our son was in Italy, posting pictures of fountains. Lisa held me while I cried. Marcus finished his call and gave us space, walking through the house slowly, methodically, taking pictures with his phone. Dorothy, he said after about 10 minutes, I need to ask you some questions. Are you up for it? I wiped my face with my sleeve. Yes. When did your son have you committed to Greenwood? March 14th, around 2 in the afternoon. And today's date? April 18th. So you were there for 5 weeks and 4 days. He wrote that down in a small notebook. During that time, did you have any contact with your husband? I tried calling him the first few days. They said he couldn't come to the phone. Then Brian told me Robert was staying with him and Vanessa while they figured out the living situation. He said it was better that way. Less stress for everyone. Did you believe him? I didn't have a choice. I couldn't leave. I couldn't check. The word stuck in my throat. I was locked up. Marcus nodded. Kept writing. The prescription bottles on the coffee table. Do you recognize them? They're Robert's. For his cancer. Pain management, anti-nausea, antibiotics. He was supposed to take them every day. Multiple times a day. And they're all full? Every single one. Lisa made a small sound. A wounded sound. Dorothy, I'm going to be very direct with you, Marcus said. What we're looking at here is potentially criminal neglect. Possibly even voluntary manslaughter, depending on what the autopsy shows. Your son had a duty of care. If he told you he was taking care of your husband and then didn't, he didn't just not take care of him, I interrupted. He went to Italy. He left the country while his father was dying. Can you prove that? I showed him Brian's Instagram post. Marcus stared at it for a long time. Then he screenshot it. People are idiots, he said quietly. They document their own crimes and call it memories. The medical examiner arrived at 5:15. Dr. Sarah Patel, mid-40s, tired eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She examined Robert with efficient gentleness, checking for lividity, rigor mortis, temperature, the science of death. Based on body temperature and rigor, she said finally, I'd estimate time of death at approximately 72 to 96 hours ago. So somewhere between April 14th and April 15th. Brian had posted that photo from Rome on April 17th. He'd been on vacation for at least a week, maybe more. Robert had died alone, probably 3 or 4 days before I found him. Was he on hospice care? Dr. Patel asked gently. No, he was still doing treatments. My voice cracked. We thought we had more time. I'll need to do a full autopsy. But I can tell you right now, those prescription bottles concern me. Palliative care patients who go without medication for this long, the pain would have been significant. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Robert had been in pain, alone, calling for me, and I wasn't there. "I'm so sorry," Dr. Patel said. She meant it. I could see it in her face. How many bodies had she seen? How many terrible stories? And she still had room for genuine sympathy. After they took Robert away, and I had to watch them zip him into a black bag and wheel him out of our house like garbage, Marcus sat me down at the kitchen table. "Here's what happens next," he said. "The autopsy will take a few days, maybe a week. Dr. Patel will look for cause of death. If there's evidence of neglect, she's a mandatory reporter. She'll have to contact Adult Protective Services and potentially the DA. Will Brian go to jail? Maybe. Depends on what we can prove he knew, what responsibility he accepted. The Instagram posts help us, a lot. But we need more. Like what? Like communications between Brian and Vanessa, emails, text messages, financial records, anything showing they planned this. I thought about Vanessa's business card. The estimated property value written on the back. What if they were planning to sell the house? Marcus leaned forward. "Tell me everything." So I did. The $485,000 estimate. Vanessa's handwriting. Split 50-50 after expenses. The fact that Brian had power of attorney over my finances while I was at Greenwood. The fact that my sister Karen, my own sister, had called me at the facility once, exactly once, and said, "Maybe Brian's right. Maybe you do need help." "Your sister knew you were there?" Marcus asked. "She knew everything. Brian told her before he had me committed. I had to stop. Swallow. She told him it was the right thing to do. That I was too old to handle Robert's care alone." Lisa swore under her breath. Something in Mandarin I didn't understand, but appreciated. "How much money do you have in your accounts?" Marcus asked. "Joint account with Robert, maybe $87,000. The account I kept from my mother's inheritance, $127,000. She died in 2018. Left it to me specifically, not to both of us. I was saving it for what? Retirement? We were already retired. For emergencies? This was the emergency. For old age? We were old. Did Brian have access to any of those accounts? Not the inheritance account. That's only in my name. But the joint account, if he had power of attorney, Marcus was already typing on his phone. "What bank?" U.S. Bank. Branch on Hawthorne. "I'm emailing them right now. As your attorney, I'm requesting an immediate freeze on all accounts and a full transaction history for the last 6 weeks. Can you do that? You're not under psychiatric hold anymore. The judge released you. That means you're competent. And any power of attorney Brian had is void. You're back in control of your finances. If Brian had taken money, when Brian had taken money, because I knew he had, I could feel it. At least we could track it." "There's something else," Lisa said quietly. She'd been looking at her phone. "Dorothy, when was Robert's last hospital visit?" "April 10th. He had a transfusion scheduled. I was supposed to pick him up, but that's the day they took me." "I called Providence," Lisa said. "I still have friends and records. Robert never showed up for his April 10th transfusion, or his April 14th follow-up. He missed both appointments. The room went cold. They would have called," I said. "If he missed appointments, they would have called. They did call. The emergency contact number on file." Lisa looked at her phone screen. Brian Mitchell answered both times. "Told them Robert was declining additional treatment and would be contacting them to establish home hospice care." "That's a lie." "I know." Marcus wrote faster. "This is premeditation. This is evidence of a plan. Brian knew Robert needed those appointments, knew he needed medication, actively prevented him from receiving care. Why?" The word came out as a whisper. Why would he do this? Nobody answered, but we all knew. The house, the money, the inheritance. It was easier to let 2 elderly parents die than to wait for nature to take its course. My phone rang. Brian's number. "Don't answer it," Marcus said immediately. "I want to hear what he says." "Dorothy!" But I was already answering, putting it on speaker. "Mom?" Brian's voice sounded strange, thin, scared. "Mom, are you home?" Lisa called Vanessa and said, "Dad, your father is dead, Brian." Silence, long enough that I thought he'd hung up. "What?" "Robert is dead. He died alone, in our living room, 3 or 4 days ago, while you were in Italy posting pictures of yourself at fountains." No, that's not. "Mom, we just landed an hour ago. I was going to come see him tonight. He's dead." I heard something that might have been a sob, or maybe just static. "The funeral is in 4 days, I said. My voice was ice. "April 22nd. Come if you want. Don't come if you don't. Either way, I never want to see you again after that." "Mom, please." I hung up. Marcus and Lisa were staring at me. "Well," Marcus said finally, "that's one way to do it." My phone started ringing again. "Brian." I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Again. After the 7th call, I blocked his number. "He's going to come here," Lisa said. "Probably tonight. Let him come. The locks are changed as of tomorrow morning. This is my house, not his." Marcus raised his eyebrows. "When did you change the locks?" "I haven't yet, but I will. First thing tomorrow. Him and Vanessa. Neither of them are welcome here anymore." Lisa squeezed my hand. "You should stay at my place tonight. You shouldn't be alone. I'm not leaving this house. If I leave, they'll take it. I know they will. Somehow, some way, they'll take it." "Then I'm staying with you," Lisa said. It wasn't a question. Marcus packed up his notebook. "I'll start filing paperwork tomorrow morning. Protective orders against Brian and Vanessa. Formal complaint with APS. Request for expedited autopsy results. We're going to build an airtight case, Dorothy. But you need to understand, this is going to get ugly. Family law cases always do. Criminal cases even more so. And this is both. I don't care. Brian will hire lawyers. Good ones. They'll try to paint you as unstable. They'll use your psychiatric hold against you. Let them try." Marcus smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Good. I like clients who fight. After he left, Lisa and I sat in the kitchen. She made tea even though neither of us wanted tea. It was something to do with our hands. "You should eat," she said. "I should sleep." "You won't sleep." She was right. I wouldn't sleep. Probably not for days. Instead, I opened my laptop, the one Robert and I had shared for years, the password our wedding anniversary, EO678. I started going through emails. It didn't take long to find them. A folder labeled house stuff that I'd never seen before. Created January 2023. 2 months before they had me committed. The first email was from Vanessa to Brian. "Your mom is going to be a problem. She'll never agree to sell, even though the equity would set us up perfectly. And with your dad's medical bills piling up, they're going to bleed the estate dry. We need to act fast." Brian's response: "What are you suggesting?" Vanessa: "Dr. Lehman owes me a favor. Remember that property staging job I did for his wife? I can call it in. Get him to sign off on a psychiatric evaluation. Once she's declared incompetent, you get power of attorney. We put her somewhere safe, and we can make the decisions that need to be made." Brian: "That feels wrong." Vanessa: "What feels wrong is watching $485,000 sit in a house that's falling apart while your parents burn through their savings on a lost cause. Your dad's not getting better, Brian. You know that. We all know that. This is about protecting your inheritance, about protecting our future." There were 47 more emails. I read every single one. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. Lisa had fallen asleep in the armchair in the living room, an Afghan pulled over her shoulders. I printed everything, every email, every text message I could access through Robert's phone, which I found charging in our bedroom. Every bank statement showing the $23,400 Brian had withdrawn from our joint account in 3 separate transactions while I was at Greenwood. The money had gone to something called Future Planning LLC. It took me 15 minutes of Googling to figure out what that was. It was Vanessa's staging company. Brian had been paying her to prepare to sell our house, while Robert was dying, while I was locked up. There was a soft knock at the front door. I looked at the clock. 12:47 a.m. Through the peephole, I saw Brian and Vanessa standing on my porch. Brian looked like he'd been crying. His eyes were red, His expensive linen shirt was wrinkled. Vanessa looked furious. "Mom!" Brian called through the door. "Mom, please, we need to talk. We need to explain." I stood there, one hand on the doorknob, watching them through the tiny circle of glass. "Please," Brian said again. His voice cracked. We thought he had more time. We thought, "Open the door, Dorothy," Vanessa said. Her voice was sharp, demanding. "This is ridiculous. We're family." I took my hand off the doorknob, walked back to the kitchen, sat down at the table with my printed emails, and I waited. They knocked for 20 minutes. Then I heard Vanessa say something harsh, something I couldn't quite make out. A car door slammed. An engine started. They were gone. I got up and checked the door, made sure it was locked, deadbolted, chained. Then I went back to the kitchen and called the one number I'd been saving. It rang 3 times, then a woman's voice. Professional, even at 1 a.m. "Baxter & Co. Legal Services. This is the emergency line. How can I help you?" "My name is Dorothy Mitchell," I said. "I need to update my will immediately, before my husband's funeral, and I need to make sure my son can't contest it." "Mrs. Mitchell, it's very late. Perhaps in the morning." My husband died alone while my son was on vacation in Italy. My son stole $23,400 from our account. He had me falsely committed to a psychiatric facility. And in 4 days, he's going to show up at the funeral and pretend to be the grieving son. Silence. Then, "I'm transferring you to Mr. Baxter directly. Please hold." I held. Outside, it started to rain. The kind of soft Portland rain that sounds like whispers. Lisa stirred in the living room, opened her eyes. "Dorothy, you okay?" "Not yet," I said. "But I will be." The line clicked. A man's voice, older, careful. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Harold Baxter. I understand you need emergency estate planning." "I need a will that can't be broken," I said. "I need trusts. I need protection. My voice finally broke. "I need to make sure the people who killed my husband don't profit from it. I have an opening at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Can you make that?" "I'll be there." "Good. And Mrs. Mitchell? Bring everything. Bank statements, medical records, emails, text messages. Anything that documents what they did." I have 47 printed emails. That's a start. After I hung up, I walked to the living room window, looked out at the street. The rain was falling harder now. Our neighbor's porch light was still on. A car passed, headlights cutting through the dark. Normal night, normal neighborhood. But nothing was normal anymore. "You should sleep," Lisa said softly. "I can't. Try." I went upstairs to the bedroom Robert and I had shared for 45 years. The bed was unmade. His reading glasses were on the nightstand. A book, something about World War II, he'd always loved history, marked with a receipt as a bookmark. I picked up his pillow. It still smelled like him. His shampoo, his skin. I stood there holding that pillow, and I made a promise to the empty room. "They're going to pay for this, Robert. Every single one of them. Brian, Vanessa, Karen, that doctor. Everyone who knew and did nothing. Everyone who helped them. I'm going to take everything they thought they'd get, and I'm going to make sure they never forget what they did to us." The rain kept falling, and somewhere in the city, my son was probably lying to his wife about what happened, making excuses, planning his next move. But this time, I was planning too, and I was 42 years smarter than him. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay in bed next to Robert's empty pillow and watched the ceiling fan turn in slow circles until the sky outside went from black to gray to the pale pink of dawn. At 6:30, I got up and showered, put on the navy blue dress I'd worn to my mother's funeral. It seemed appropriate. Lisa was already awake, making coffee in my kitchen like she'd done it 1,000 times before. "You look terrible," she said. "I feel terrible." "Good. If you felt fine, I'd be worried." She handed me a mug. "Drink. Baxter's office is downtown. We should leave by 7:15 to beat traffic." "We? You think I'm letting you do this alone?" I almost cried again. Instead, I drank the coffee. It was too hot and too strong and exactly what I needed. Harold Baxter's office was on the third floor of a building that smelled like old wood and expensive furniture polish. The waiting room had leather chairs that didn't squeak, and magazines from this year, not 3 years ago. This was not the kind of lawyer you found on a billboard. Baxter himself was probably 75. White hair, sharp blue eyes, hands that shook slightly when he shook mine, but a grip that was still firm. "Mrs. Mitchell, Ms. Chen, please sit." His desk was organized chaos. Stacks of folders, each one labeled and color-coded. A computer with 2 monitors. A photo of what looked like grandchildren on a boat. "I reviewed the materials you sent last night," Baxter said, gesturing to a thick folder. "The emails, the bank statements, the medical records. I've been practicing law for 47 years, and I can tell you with certainty, this is one of the most clear-cut cases of elder abuse I've ever seen. Can we stop it?" I asked. "Can we make sure Brian doesn't get anything?" "We can do better than that. We can make sure he faces consequences." Baxter opened the folder. First, the will. Your current will, executed in 2015, leaves everything split evenly between you and your husband, and upon both deaths, everything goes to Brian, correct? Yes. That will is now void since Robert has passed. We need a new one, and we need it bulletproof. He pulled out a legal pad, started writing. "Here's what I propose. The house, 2847 S.E. Hawthorne, remains in your name exclusively. Upon your death, it goes to a charitable trust. I suggest one focused on elder abuse prevention. We'll set up the trust today. A charity, not Brian, not Brian. He forfeited any claim to your generosity when he stole from you and caused your husband's death through criminal neglect." The words hung in the air. Criminal neglect. That's what it was. That's what we were calling it now. "What about the money?" Lisa asked. "The $127,000 in your mother's inheritance account is yours alone. We'll put that in a separate trust as well. You'll draw from it as needed for living expenses. Whatever's left goes to the same charitable trust. The joint account with Robert, what's left after Brian's theft, becomes your operating account. Any other assets, life insurance, etc., all protected." "Robert had a life insurance policy," I said quietly. $50,000. I'm the beneficiary." "Good. That money is yours, no question. Brian can't touch it." Baxter made more notes. "Now, here's where we get strategic. I want to add a no-contest clause to the will. Essentially, if Brian tries to challenge any of this, he gets nothing. Not even the few personal items I'm going to allow him." "What personal items?" "A few of Robert's things. Photos, maybe a watch or a book. Something that shows you're not being cruel without cause. It actually strengthens the will. Shows you're of sound mind, not acting out of pure spite. Even though..." He looked at me over his reading glasses. "Spite would be entirely justified." We spent 3 hours going through every detail, every account, every asset. Baxter had 2 associates working in the background, pulling documents, verifying information, building what he called the fortress. At one point, Lisa went to get us sandwiches from a deli downstairs. When she came back, Baxter was showing me a draft of the will on his computer screen. "The language here is very specific," he explained. "I reference the psychiatric hold, the theft, the abandonment of Robert's medical care. I cite the emails as evidence of premeditated financial abuse. Any judge who reads this will understand exactly why you're doing what you're doing. Will Brian see it? Before I die, I mean? Not unless you show it to him. Wills are private documents until probate, but..." Baxter leaned back in his chair. "I think you should tell him. Not the details. Just that you've changed your will. Let him worry." "Why?" "Because worried people make mistakes. And we want him making mistakes." By the time we left Baxter's office, it was almost noon. The will was signed, witnessed, notarized. Copies were made. One for me, one for Baxter's safe, one for Lisa, as my designated executor. "If something happens to me," I told her in the elevator, "you're in charge. Nothing's going to happen to you. But if it does, then I'll make sure Brian doesn't get a penny. I promise." We went back to my house. The rain had stopped, but everything was still wet, gray, heavy. There was a note taped to my front door. "Mom, please call me. We need to talk about the funeral arrangements. Dad deserves a proper service. Whatever you think of me, don't punish him. Brian." I crumpled the note and threw it in the recycling bin. "Are you going to call him?" Lisa asked. "Eventually, but not today." Today, I had other plans. I spent the afternoon in Robert's study, a small room at the back of the house that had always been his space. His desk, his filing cabinet, his bookshelves lined with histories and biographies and mysteries he'd never finish. The filing cabinet was organized with the precision of the accountant he'd been for 40 years. Taxes, insurance, medical, personal. In the personal drawer, I found a shoebox. Inside were letters, dozens of them, some from me, written during the early years when I was working night shifts and he was working days, and we'd leave each other notes. Some from his mother, who died in 1993. Some from Brian. I opened one of Brian's letters, dated September 1998. He would have been 16. "Dad, thanks for talking to me last night. I know I screwed up with the car. I know Mom's mad. But you always understand. You always give me another chance. I'm going to do better. I promise. Love, B." Another letter. December 2003. Brian was 21. "Dad, I got the check. Thank you. I know you and Mom didn't have extra money, but this really helps. The apartment in Seattle is expensive, but it's worth it. The job is good. I'm going to pay you back. I swear. Love, Brian. He never paid us back." Another letter, May 2010. "Dad, thank you for the loan. $35,000 is going to change my life. I can finally start the career I've been dreaming about. You and Mom are the best parents anyone could ask for. I'm going to make you proud. Love, Brian." I sat there holding these letters and tried to find the moment, the exact moment when the boy who wrote these words turned into the man who left his father to die alone. Was it gradual? Was there a specific day? A specific decision? Or was it Vanessa? Had she done this to him? No, that was too easy. Vanessa was terrible, but Brian was a grown man. He'd made his choices. At the bottom of the shoebox, underneath all the letters, I found a USB drive. It was labeled in Robert's handwriting, "For Dorothy," just in case. My hands were shaking when I plugged it into the computer. There were 4 audio files, all dated April 2023. I clicked on the first one, April 11th. Robert's voice came through the speakers, weak, thin, but unmistakably him. "Dorothy, I don't know if you'll ever hear this. I don't know where you are. Brian says you're getting help, but something feels wrong. He won't let me call you. He won't tell me where you are. He says it's for your own good. But Dorothy, I need you. I'm so tired. The pain it's bad. Really bad. And I can't find my medications. Brian took them. He said he'd handle it. But he hasn't come back. It's been 2 days. The recording ended. I clicked the second file. April 12th. "Dorothy, it's getting worse. I tried to call 911 yesterday, but my phone is gone. Brian took it. He said I was confused, that I didn't need it. But I'm not confused. I know what day it is. I know where I am. I need my medication. I need water. I tried to go downstairs, but I fell. My hip. Something's wrong with my hip. I'm back in bed now. I'm going to try to sleep. Maybe when I wake up, you'll be here." Third file, April 13th. "Dorothy, please come home. Please. I don't understand what's happening. Why aren't you here? Did I do something wrong? Are you mad at me? I'm sorry. I'm sorry for whatever I did. Just please come home. The pain I can't describe it. It's everywhere. And I'm so thirsty. So thirsty. Brian was supposed to come today, he promised. But it's dark now and he's not here. Nobody's here. Just me. Just me in the dark." His voice broke. He was crying. I was crying too, tears running down my face, my chest tight like someone was standing on it. Fourth file, April 14th. "Dorothy, I'm recording this because I think I'm dying. I can feel it. Everything's getting quieter, farther away. I wanted to tell you. I wanted you to know. This wasn't your fault. Whatever Brian told you, Whatever they said, you were a perfect wife. 45 years, the best 45 years. I love you. I've always loved you. And I forgive Brian. I don't know if you can, but I do. He's our son. He's lost. Maybe someday he'll find his way back. But Dorothy, don't let him hurt you. Don't let him take what's yours. You work too hard. You sacrifice too much. Promise me. Promise me you'll fight. There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing, labored, struggling. I'm so tired. I think I'm going to sleep now. When I wake up, maybe you'll be there. Maybe we can have breakfast. You make the best coffee. Did I ever tell you that? Best coffee in the world. I love you, Dorothy. The recording cut off. I sat there staring at the computer screen for I don't know how long. Then I got up, walked to the bathroom, and vomited. Lisa found me on the floor 20 minutes later, my forehead pressed against the cool tile. Dorothy, what happened? What did you find? I couldn't speak. I just pointed to the study. She listened to all 4 recordings. When she came back out, her face was gray. We're giving these to Marcus, she said. Right now, today. This is, Dorothy, this is evidence of murder. Not neglect, murder. Brian knew Robert needed help. He deliberately withheld it. He took his phone, his medications. He left him to die. Robert forgave him. Robert was dying and in pain. He didn't know what he was saying. He knew exactly what he was saying. Lisa knelt down beside me. You don't have to forgive Brian just because Robert did. I know. Do you forgive him? I thought about that 16-year-old boy who crashed his dad's car and promised to do better. I thought about the 21-year-old who needed help with rent, the 32-year-old who needed a loan to start his career. I thought about the 41-year-old man who posted photos from Rome while his father died in agony. No, I said. I don't forgive him, and I never will. We sent the audio files to Marcus. He called back within an hour. Dorothy, this changes everything. I'm contacting the DA's office immediately. This is criminal. Potentially first-degree manslaughter, maybe even murder. The premeditation in those emails combined with the deliberate withholding of care, a prosecutor's going to love this case. How long until? The autopsy results should be back by tomorrow or the day after. If Dr. Patel finds what I think she'll find, evidence of dehydration, malnutrition, pain from untreated cancer, combined with these recordings and the emails, we have everything we need. And the funeral? It's in 3 days. Marcus was quiet for a moment. You still want to have it? Yes. Brian will be there. I know. It's going to be ugly, Dorothy. Good. I want it to be ugly. I want everyone to see what he did. After I hung up, I went back to Robert's study, sat at his desk, looked at the photo he kept in a silver frame, the 2 of us on our wedding day, 1978. I was 23. He was 25. We looked impossibly young. I'm going to keep my promise, I told the photograph. I'm going to fight, and I'm going to win. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Mitchell, this is Karen. Brian told me about Robert. I'm so sorry. Please let me know about funeral arrangements. I'd like to be there. My sister, my own sister, who knew they were planning to commit me, who told Brian it was the right thing to do. I stared at that text for 5 full minutes. Then I blocked her number too. The funeral director came by that evening to discuss arrangements. A soft-spoken man named David who'd clearly done this 1,000 times. What kind of service did Robert want? He asked gently. Simple, small. He hated fuss. Burial or cremation? Burial, next to his parents. At Riverview Cemetery. We went through the details. Casket, flowers, music. The minister from the Methodist church we'd attended sporadically over the years agreed to officiate. How many guests are you expecting? David asked. I don't know, maybe 20, maybe less. And will family be speaking? No family speeches. David nodded, wrote that down. If he thought it was strange, he didn't say so. After he left, Lisa and I sat in the kitchen. The house felt enormous around us, empty. You should eat, Lisa said for the 100th time. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten in 2 days. I can't. Every time I try, I think about Robert, alone, thirsty, in pain, and my voice cracked. I can't. Lisa got up and started heating soup anyway, tomato, from a can. She put a bowl in front of me and stood there with her arms crossed until I picked up the spoon. I managed 3 bites before I had to stop. That's good, she said. 3 bites is good. That night, I slept in the guest room. I couldn't face the bedroom I'd shared with Robert. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I dreamed about him. He was standing in the living room by the couch where I'd found him. He looked healthy, young, like he'd looked in the hospital when we first met. You okay? He asked. No, I'm not okay. I'm so far from okay. I know. But you will be. Eventually. I should have been there. Dorothy, look at me. He stepped closer. This wasn't your fault. You know that, right? I should have fought harder. You did everything you could. And now you're doing what needs to be done. I'm proud of you. Don't leave me again. I'm not leaving. I'm right here. He put his hand over my heart. I'm always going to be right here. I woke up at 4 a.m. with tears on my face and my hand pressed against my chest. The house was dark, silent. Robert wasn't there, but I was. And I had work to do. I got up and went to the study, opened the filing cabinet, started going through every piece of paper, every record, every document from the last 5 years. By dawn, I had a timeline. 2020, Robert diagnosed. I start researching treatment options. Brian calls once a week, sometimes less. 2021, Robert starts chemotherapy. Bills pile up. I cash out part of my retirement account. Brian calls once a month. Never offers help. 2022, Robert's cancer stabilizes. We have good months, bad months. Brian marries Vanessa in October. We're not invited to help plan. We're told where to show up. January 2023, Robert's cancer progresses. Doctor recommends palliative care. Robert refuses. Wants to keep fighting. I support him. First email between Brian and Vanessa about the house situation. February 2023, medical bills reach $74,000. I pay with savings and the joint account. Second email from Vanessa. We need to act soon. March 2023, I'm committed. Brian drains the joint account. Robert misses his appointments. The recordings begin. April 2023, Robert dies. Brian posts photos from Italy. I find the body. Every step planned, every move calculated. This wasn't negligence. This wasn't even criminal neglect. This was murder by abandonment, and I had proof. At 8 a.m., my phone rang. Marcus. Dorothy. The autopsy results came back early. Dr. Patel expedited them given the circumstances. And, cause of death, dehydration and septic shock from an untreated urinary tract infection, complicated by metastatic pancreatic cancer. Time of death, approximately 11 p.m., April 14th. She found evidence of extreme thirst. His mouth and throat were severely damaged from dehydration, evidence of malnutrition, and, Marcus paused, evidence of a fractured hip. He fell at some point and couldn't get help. The recording, Robert saying he fell, his hip. The DA wants to meet with you tomorrow, Marcus continued. They're considering charges, multiple charges, elder abuse, theft, involuntary manslaughter at minimum. Will Brian be arrested? Almost certainly. It's just a matter of when. I want it to be after the funeral. Dorothy. After the funeral. He can stand there and pretend to grieve. And then he can face what he did. But Robert's service, that's not about Brian. That's about Robert. Marcus sighed. I'll talk to the DA. No promises. After I hung up, I called the funeral home. David, this is Dorothy Mitchell. I need to add something to Robert's obituary. Of course. What would you like to add? I took a breath. I want it to say, Robert died peacefully at home. And then I want a line that says, he is survived by his loving wife, Dorothy. That's it. No mention of children. No mention of family. Mrs. Mitchell, are you sure? The standard format usually? I'm sure. All right, I'll make the change. The obituary ran in the Oregonian the next day. Small, simple. Exactly what Robert would have wanted. I know Brian saw it. Because at 2 p.m. he showed up at my door again. This time I opened it. He looked terrible. Unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes red and swollen. "Mom, please, we need to talk." "No, we don't. The obituary. You didn't mention me. Your own son." "I don't have a son anymore." His face crumpled. "Mom, I know you're angry. I know I screwed up. But Dad, he was my father. I loved him. You killed him. That's not— I didn't—" He was crying now. Real tears. Or maybe fake ones. I couldn't tell anymore. "I thought he had more time. I thought you were both going to be okay." Vanessa said, "Don't blame your wife for your choices. I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But I never wanted Dad to die. You have to believe that." I looked at this man standing on my porch. This stranger who used to be my little boy. "The funeral is tomorrow," I said. 2 p.m., Riverview Cemetery. "You can come if you want. You can stand there and cry. You can tell people what a good son you were. But after tomorrow, I never want to see you again." "Mom." I closed the door, locked it, and walked away while he pounded on the wood and called my name. The morning of Robert's funeral, I woke up at 5 a.m. and couldn't fall back asleep. I lay there in the guest room bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the last funeral I'd attended, my mother's, back in 2018. Robert had held my hand through the whole service. Afterwards, we'd gone to that diner on 82nd Avenue, the one with the good pie, and we'd talked about everything and nothing until the grief felt a little smaller. There would be no pie today. No hand to hold. Lisa knocked softly on the door at 6:30. "You awake?" "Yeah." She came in with coffee, sat on the edge of the bed. "How are you doing?" "I don't know. I keep thinking, what if I say something at the funeral? What if I stand up and tell everyone what Brian did? Do you want to do that?" Part of me does. Part of me wants to scream it from the rooftop, but another part— I sipped the coffee. It was perfect. Lisa always made it perfect. Another part thinks Robert deserves better than that. He deserves a peaceful goodbye. Then give him that. The truth will come out. Just not today. At 1:30, we left for the cemetery. I wore black. Simple. A dress I'd bought at Nordstrom Rack 3 years ago for $47. Robert would have approved. He'd always hated waste. Riverview Cemetery was beautiful in that sad way cemeteries are. Rolling hills, old oak trees, headstones dating back to the 1800s. Robert's parents were buried in Section 14 under a maple tree. There were 2 empty plots next to them. One for Robert, one for me. Someday, not today. The service area was a small pavilion with folding chairs. Maybe 25 people showed up. Friends from the hospital where I'd worked, a few neighbors, Robert's cousin from Seattle. The minister, Reverend Palmer, looking appropriately somber in his black robe. Brian and Vanessa arrived at 1:55, 5 minutes before start time. Brian wore a black suit that looked new, expensive. Vanessa wore a black dress with pearls. She'd done her makeup to look like she'd been crying, but her eyes were clear, sharp. They tried to sit in the front row, next to me. "Those seats are saved," I said quietly. "Mom, we're family." "Those seats are saved." Lisa stood up, all 5'2" of her, but she might as well have been 6 feet tall. "You heard her. Find somewhere else." People were watching now, whispering. Brian's face went red, but he moved. He and Vanessa sat 3 rows back. Good. The service started. Reverend Palmer talked about Robert, his kindness, his dedication to his family, his 40 years as an accountant, his love of history books and bad puns and the trailblazers. It was nice, generic. The kind of thing you say when you didn't really know the person but you're getting paid to pretend you did. Then Reverend Palmer asked if anyone wanted to share memories. Robert's cousin Jim stood up, talked about fishing trips when they were kids, how Robert always caught the biggest fish and always threw them back. One of my old co-workers, Margaret, talked about how Robert used to bring me lunch during double shifts, how he'd sit in the break room and do crossword puzzles while I ate. A neighbor, Mr. Kowalski from across the street, talked about how Robert helped him fix his roof last summer, how he'd refused payment, Said neighbors helped neighbors. Simple stories. Small kindnesses. That's who Robert was. I waited for Brian to stand up. To say something. Anything. He didn't. He sat there with his head down and his hands folded and said nothing. After the service, they lowered the casket into the ground. I stood there and watched my husband disappear into the earth. People came up to offer condolences. Hugs, handshakes, the things you do at funerals because you don't know what else to do. Brian approached, Vanessa beside him. Mom, I'm so sorry. He was a good dad. The best. I looked at him. Really looked. Tried to find my son somewhere in this stranger's face. You need to leave, I said quietly. What? You need to leave. Now. Before I have you removed. Mom, please. Lisa stepped between us. You heard her. Vanessa's mask finally cracked. This is ridiculous. We're family. We have every right to be here. You have no rights, I said. My voice was ice. You gave up your rights when you let Robert die alone. Now get out of this cemetery before I call security. You're being irrational, Vanessa hissed. Everyone can see it. Everyone knows you're not well. Margaret, my old co-worker, was standing close enough to hear. So was Jim. So was Mr. Kowalski. Actually, Margaret said, stepping forward, I think Dorothy's making perfect sense, and I think you should leave. Jim nodded. I agree. This isn't the place. Brian looked around, realized people were watching, judging. We're going, he said, grabbed Vanessa's arm. Come on. No, this is... Vanessa, we're going. They left, Vanessa's heels clicking on the pavement. Brian's shoulders hunched like he was trying to disappear. After they were gone, Margaret hugged me. I don't know what happened between you and your son, but I know you, and I know you wouldn't cut him off without good reason. Thank you, I whispered. If you need anything, and I mean anything, you call me. Okay? I nodded, couldn't speak anymore. By 3:30, everyone had left except Lisa and me. We stood there by the grave, by the mound of fresh earth that would settle over time. You want to say anything? Lisa asked gently. To Robert? I already did. This morning. Okay. We drove back to my house in silence. When we pulled up, there was a car in my driveway. A black sedan I didn't recognize. You expecting someone? Lisa asked. No. A woman got out of the sedan, mid-40s, professional suit, briefcase. Mrs. Mitchell? I'm Detective Sarah Reeves, Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. I was hoping we could talk. My heart started pounding. About what? About your husband's death? And your son? May I come inside? Lisa and I exchanged looks. Let me call my lawyer first. Of course. Take your time. I called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. Dorothy, how was the funeral? Fine. There's a detective here, Sarah Reeves. She wants to talk about Robert's death. Don't say anything. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Okay. I hung up and turned to Detective Reeves. My lawyer is on his way. You can wait inside or in your car. Inside is fine, thank you. We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd found Robert. The couch had been professionally cleaned, but I could still see him there, would always see him there. I'm sorry for your loss, Detective Reeves said. She seemed sincere. I know this is difficult timing. Thank you. I've been assigned to investigate the circumstances surrounding your husband's death. The medical examiner's report raised some concerns. I didn't say anything. Marcus had been very clear. Don't volunteer information. Don't speculate. Just wait. Marcus arrived 18 minutes later. He and Detective Reeves shook hands like old colleagues. Sarah, been a while. Marcus, wish it was under better circumstances. Don't we all? He sat down next to me. What can we help you with? Detective Reeves pulled out a notebook. I'm trying to establish a timeline. Mrs. Mitchell, when was the last time you saw your husband alive? Marcus nodded at me. I could answer that. March 14th, around 2 p.m. That's when... My voice caught. That's when my son had me committed to Greenwood Care Facility. Under what circumstances? A psychiatrist named Dr. Howard Lehman signed papers saying I was a danger to myself. It was false. The judge overturned it 6 weeks later. And during those 6 weeks you had no contact with your husband? I tried. Brian, my son, told me Robert was staying with him, that he was being cared for, but it was a lie. Detective Reeves wrote that down. When did you discover your husband had passed? April 18th, around 3:30 p.m. I'd just been released from Greenwood that morning. And what did you observe when you found him? Marcus put his hand on my arm. You don't have to go into detail if you don't want to, but I did want to. I wanted this detective to know everything. He was on the couch. He'd been dead for several days. The autopsy said he died on April 14th. There were 7 prescription bottles on the coffee table, all full. Nobody had given him his medication. He died of dehydration and septic shock. Do you know where your son was during this time? Italy, with his wife. He posted photos on Instagram. I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshots I'd saved. This is from April 17th, 3 days after Robert died. Detective Reeves studied the phone for a long time. Finally, a vacation without the old folks. She looked up. He posted this publicly? Yes. Mrs. Mitchell, I need to ask you something directly. Do you believe your son deliberately neglected your husband's care? Marcus started to object, but I held up my hand. Yes, I believe that. I have evidence that proves it. What evidence? I told her about the emails, the $23,400 stolen from our account, the recordings Robert made, all 4 of them. By the time I finished, Detective Reeves's face had changed. The professional neutrality was gone. Now she looked angry. I need copies of everything, she said. The emails, the bank statements, the recordings, all of it. Marcus has everything. I'll send it over today, Marcus said. But Sarah, we need to discuss charges. This isn't simple neglect. This is premeditated. I know. I've already talked to the DA. We're looking at multiple felonies, elder abuse, theft, and depending on what the grand jury decides, involuntary manslaughter or possibly second-degree murder. The words hung in the air. Second-degree murder. My son, the murderer. When will you arrest him? I asked. Soon. We need to finish collecting evidence, interview witnesses, but soon. Within the week, after Detective Reeves left, Marcus stayed for another hour, going over what would happen next. The DA will probably want you to testify before the grand jury, he said. Are you prepared for that? Yes. It's going to be hard, Dorothy. They'll ask detailed questions. You'll have to relive everything. I know. I'm ready. And if it goes to trial, I'll testify there too, as many times as it takes. Marcus smiled. It was sad and proud at the same time. Robert was lucky to have you. No, I was lucky to have him. After Marcus left, I sat down at the kitchen table with Lisa. What now? She asked. Now we wait. But I didn't want to just wait. I wanted to act. I opened my laptop and started Googling. Found what I was looking for within 10 minutes. The Oregon State Medical Board, complaint form, online submission. I filled it out carefully. Every detail. How Dr. Howard Lehman had signed psychiatric hold papers without ever examining me. How he'd done it as a favor to Vanessa. How his false diagnosis had enabled everything that followed. Under supporting documentation, I uploaded copies of the emails. The ones showing Vanessa asking him for the favor. The ones showing him agreeing. I hit submit. What are you doing? Lisa asked. Making sure Dr. Lehman faces consequences too. Can they take his license? I don't know. But they can investigate. And maybe he'll think twice before he signs false paperwork for someone's home staging business next time. It felt good. Small, but good. The next day, I went to the bank. U.S. Bank on Hawthorne, the same branch where Robert and I had opened our first joint account in 1979. The manager, a young woman named Ashley, seemed nervous when I asked to speak with her privately. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm so sorry for your loss. We heard about Mr. Mitchell. He was such a kind man. Thank you. I need to discuss some transactions on our joint account. Specifically, 3 withdrawals totaling $23,400 made by my son while I was incapacitated. Ashley pulled up the records, frowned. I see. These were made using power of attorney documents filed on March 15th. Documents my son filed without my knowledge or consent while I was being illegally held in a psychiatric facility. I wasn't aware. I have a lawyer. He's already submitted fraud complaints, but I wanted to come here personally and put you on notice. Those transactions were theft, and I want to know what your bank is going to do about it. Mrs. Mitchell, I'll need to escalate this to our fraud department. It may take— I don't care how long it takes. I want my money back, and I want your bank to explain how someone was able to drain my account based on fraudulent paperwork without any verification. Ashley was typing frantically now. I'm so sorry. This shouldn't have happened. I'm opening a formal complaint right now. Good. Have your fraud department call my lawyer. I slid Marcus's business card across the desk. And Ashley? Yes? If I find out anyone at this bank was involved in helping my son steal from me, I'll make sure they face charges too. Her face went pale. I understand. I left the bank feeling lighter, more in control. That evening I got an email from the Oregon State Medical Board. Dear Mrs. Mitchell, thank you for submitting a complaint regarding Dr. Howard Lehman, MD. Your complaint has been assigned case number 2023-04-1847 and will be reviewed by our investigative committee. Please note that investigations typically take 60 to 90 days. You will be notified of any findings. Sincerely, Oregon State Medical Board. 60 to 90 days. Fine. I could wait. 2 days later, Lisa came over with news. You're not going to believe this, she said, grinning. What? Dr. Lehman. I have a friend who works at Providence, where he has admitting privileges. She just told me the hospital got a notice from the medical board about an active investigation. They've suspended his privileges pending the outcome. What does that mean? It means he can't admit patients, can't do rounds. Basically, he can't work at Providence until the investigation is closed. And Dorothy? That's his main hospital. Most of his income comes from there. Karma. Immediate and beautiful. How much do you think he makes at Providence? I asked. Probably $200,000 a year at least, maybe more. So Dr. Lehman was losing hundreds of thousands of dollars because he'd signed false paperwork for Vanessa's benefit. Good. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Mitchell? This is Joanna Chen. I'm a friend of Lisa's. We worked together at Providence years ago. Oh, hello. I heard about what happened to you and Robert. I'm so sorry. But I wanted to call because, well, I'm also a client of Vanessa Mitchell's. Or I was. She did some staging work for me last year when I sold my condo. I see. I heard what she did, to you, and I can't support someone like that. So I called and canceled the contract I had with her for my new property. And I've been calling other people in my real estate network, letting them know what kind of person she is. I sat down. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. What she did was unforgivable, and people need to know. I've already talked to 6 realtors. 3 of them have pulled contracts with her. More karma. Immediate and devastating. Thank you, I said quietly. You have no idea what that means to me. I just hope it helps. And Mrs. Mitchell, if you need anything, references for contractors, recommendations for legal help, anything, please call me. After we hung up, I just sat there. Vanessa's business was collapsing, her reputation destroyed, all because people, good people, refused to work with someone who abused elderly clients. That afternoon, I got another call, this time from Marcus. Dorothy, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Brian's trying to claim his inheritance. He filed paperwork with probate court arguing that as Robert's only child, he's entitled to half of the estate. But the will hasn't been read yet, officially, and Brian doesn't know you changed it. He's operating under the assumption that the 2015 will is still valid. So what do? We schedule a formal reading, at my office, with Brian present, and we let him find out exactly what his father left him. When? How about next week, May 2nd? That gives us time to notify him properly. Do it. Dorothy, I have to warn you, Brian's going to be angry. Very angry. He's expecting $485,000 from the house sale plus whatever else Robert left. When he finds out he's getting almost nothing, good, let him be angry. He can be angry in prison. Marcus laughed. It was a surprised sound. You know what? I like this version of you. This version of me doesn't have anything left to lose. That night, I couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't grief keeping me awake. It was anticipation. In 1 week, Brian would sit across from me in Marcus's office and learn that his father, the man he'd let die alone, had left him nothing. In 1 week, he'd realize that every calculation, every manipulation, every lie had been for nothing. I got up and went to Robert's study, sat at his desk, opened the drawer where he kept his personal papers. There was an envelope I'd missed before, tucked behind some old tax returns. It was addressed to me in Robert's handwriting, but the date was from 2019. 4 years ago. I opened it carefully. Dorothy, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I wanted to write this while I'm still healthy, while my mind is still clear, so you know what I really think. Brian worries me. I love him. He's our son, I'll always love him. But he worries me. He's become entitled, demanding. He thinks the world owes him something just because he exists. I don't know when it happened. Maybe it was always there and I just didn't want to see it. I know you've noticed too. I see it in your face when he calls asking for money, when he shows up and raids the refrigerator and complains that we don't have the good cheese. I want you to know, if something happens to me, you owe him nothing. Not the house, not the money, nothing. You worked your whole life. You deserve to enjoy whatever time you have left. Don't let Brian guilt you. Don't let him manipulate you. Don't let him pretend he was a good son when we both know the truth. Whatever you decide to do, I support you. Always. I love you, Dorothy. Forever. Robert, I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. Robert had known. 4 years ago, he'd already seen what Brian was becoming, and he'd given me permission to do what needed to be done. The next morning, I called Harold Baxter. Harold, this is Dorothy Mitchell. I found another document I want to keep with the will, a letter from Robert, written in 2019. What does it say? I read it to him over the phone. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Dorothy, this is important. This letter shows Robert's intent, his wishes. If Brian tries to contest the will, this letter proves that Robert wanted you, and only you, to inherit. Can we use it at the reading? We can. We absolutely can. Good. I want Brian to hear his father's words. I want him to know that Robert saw exactly who he was. May 2nd, the reading of the will. I had 7 days to wait, 7 days to prepare, 7 days to make sure I was ready for whatever Brian said or did. I spent those days organizing, cleaning, sorting through Robert's things. His clothes went to Goodwill. His books went to the library. His tools went to Mr. Kowalski, who cried when I offered them. Robert was a good man, Mr. Kowalski said. The best neighbor we ever had. I know. I heard what your son did. The whole neighborhood heard. And I want you to know, if you need anything, anything at all, you just knock on my door. Thank you. By May 1st, the house was clean, organized, ready, and so was I. The next morning, I woke up early, put on my navy blue dress again, the armor dress. Lisa came by at 9 to drive me downtown. You ready for this? She asked. I've been ready for 3 weeks. He's going to say terrible things. I know. He might threaten you. Let him try. We pulled up to Marcus's office at 9:45, 15 minutes early. Brian's car was already there. Brian and Vanessa were already in the conference room when we walked in. Brian looked worse than at the funeral. Eyes hollow, suit wrinkled. Vanessa sat rigid, her jaw clenched. Marcus stood at the head of the table. Everyone's here. Let's begin. I sat across from Brian. Our eyes met. He looked away first. We're here for the formal reading of Robert Mitchell's last will and testament, executed on April 19th, 2023, Marcus began. Brian's head snapped up. April 19th? That's 1 day after he died. 1 day after Mrs. Mitchell found him, Marcus corrected. The will was executed by Mrs. Mitchell, as is her right as surviving spouse. This is insane, Vanessa hissed. She was in a psychiatric facility 3 weeks before. She's not competent to— Mrs. Mitchell was released by court order, Marcus interrupted. Fully competent. Unlike the fraudulent hold your husband arranged. Brian flinched. Marcus opened the folder. The will is straightforward. To Brian Mitchell, Robert's son. The following items: Robert's watch, his wedding ring, his collection of World War II histories, and this letter. He slid an envelope across the table. That's it? Brian's voice cracked. Books and a watch? That's it. What about the house, the money, the life insurance? All to Dorothy. Additionally, Brian, you should know that your mother has documented evidence of your theft of $23,400 from the joint account, your role in her false commitment, and your deliberate neglect of your father's medical care. Brian's face went gray. That's not... We have your emails, I said quietly. All 47 of them. We have Robert's recordings, 4 of them. And we have the autopsy report showing he died of dehydration while you were posting photos from Rome. Vanessa stood up. We're leaving. This is a setup. Sit down, Marcus said. His voice was steel. We're not finished. She sat. Marcus picked up another paper. There's also this, a letter from Robert written in 2019. Brian's hands were shaking. What letter? Marcus began reading. Brian worries me. I love him. He's our son. I'll always love him, but he worries me. He's become entitled, demanding. Brian's face crumpled. Real tears now. Not manipulation. Actual grief. When Marcus finished, the room was silent, except for Brian's ragged breathing. Your father knew, I said. 4 years before he died, he knew exactly who you'd become. Mom, please. Brian's voice was a whisper. I didn't mean for Dad to die, I swear. I thought Vanessa said he'd be fine for a few days, that we deserved a vacation, that... Don't blame your wife. You're a 41-year-old man. You made your choices. He put his head in his hands. I'm so sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Detective Reeves will be contacting you soon, Marcus said. The DA is filing charges, multiple felonies. Vanessa grabbed her purse. We need a lawyer. Yes, Marcus agreed. You do. Brian looked up at me one more time. His face was destroyed. Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but is there any chance at all, that someday... I stood up, looked at this stranger who used to be my son. No, I said, and I walked out. Brian was arrested on May 8th. Elder abuse, theft, involuntary manslaughter. I didn't go to the courthouse, didn't watch the perp walk. I read about it in the Oregonian while drinking coffee in my kitchen. The house sold 6 weeks later for $510,000, $25,000 more than Vanessa's estimate. I moved into a small apartment on Northeast Fremont, 2 blocks from Lisa. What are $200 a month? 1 bedroom, a balcony with a view of trees. It felt like freedom. The bank returned $18,000 of the stolen money. The rest had been spent. Vanessa's staging fees, the Italy trip, lawyer retainers. Gone. Dr. Lehman lost his medical license in August. Permanently. The investigation found he'd signed psychiatric holds for 3 other patients without proper evaluation, all referred by Vanessa. Vanessa's business collapsed completely. Last I heard, she was working at a Macy's in Clackamas. Brian filed for divorce from jail. I used $50,000 from Robert's life insurance to create a fund at Providence Hospital. The Robert Mitchell Memorial Fund for Elder Abuse Prevention. It pays for social workers to do wellness checks on isolated seniors. Every month, they help 5 or 6 people. Robert would have liked that. In October, 8 months after Robert's death, I got a letter. Prison stationery, Brian's handwriting. Mom, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your time, but I'm writing anyway because my therapist here says I need to take responsibility. I killed Dad. Not with my hands, but with my neglect. With my greed, with my cowardice. I let Vanessa convince me that you both were obstacles instead of people. I'm so sorry. I've been sentenced to 6 years. I'll serve probably 4 with good behavior. When I get out, I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the person Dad thought I could be. The person you raised me to be. I love you. I'll always love you. Even if you never speak to me again. Brian. I read it 5 times. Then I put it in a drawer. 6 months later, another letter came. Mom, I'm taking classes here. Accounting, like Dad. I'm volunteering in the prison library. Small steps, but steps. Lisa visited me last month. She didn't have to, but she did. She told me about the fund you created, about the apartment, about how you're doing. She said you're healing. I'm glad. You deserve peace. I didn't respond, but I didn't throw the letter away either. In March 2024, nearly a year after Robert's death, Lisa and I were having coffee on my balcony when she said, "Brian's been writing to me every 2 weeks. I know. He's different, Dorothy. Really different. Broken, but maybe that needed to happen. Maybe. Would you ever consider, I don't know." And that was the truth. I didn't know. Some days I thought about forgiveness, about second chances, about the boy who wrote those letters promising to do better. Other days I thought about Robert's recordings, the pain in his voice, the fear. Both things were true. Both things would always be true. That afternoon I was cleaning out my closet when I found it. The envelope. The one from Robert's desk, dated April 11th, 3 days before he died. I'd kept it all this time, never opened it. Now I sat on my bed, turned it over in my hands, and carefully broke the seal. My darling Dorothy, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm so sorry I couldn't wait for you to come home. I know Brian did something terrible. I know he kept you from me. But Dorothy, please, find a way to forgive him. Not for his sake, for yours. Anger will eat you alive. I've seen it happen to good people. Don't let it happen to you. Live, Dorothy. Travel. Make art. Fall in love again if you want. You're only 68. You have so much time left. And if Brian ever finds his way back to being the boy we raised, give him a chance. Just one. I love you forever, Robert. I sat there holding that letter while the sun set outside my window. Somewhere in Oregon State Penitentiary, my son was learning accounting. Somewhere in the city, people I'd never meet were getting help because of Robert's fund. Somewhere in my heart, there was room for both grief and hope. I picked up my phone, stared at it for a long time. Then I started typing. "Brian, I got your letters, all of them. I'm not ready to visit. I might never be ready, but I'm not saying no forever. Keep doing the work. Keep becoming better. We'll see." Mom, I hit send before I could change my mind. Outside, a bird was singing. Spring was coming, and I was still here. What would you do in Dorothy's place? Would you give Brian a second chance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you have a similar story, send it to our channel. We read every submission. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories like this one. Your support means everything.